another video. I touched on a term that I recently learned during a conference that I attended by Pastor Tracy. She made a term very real for me because I felt like it was a Rhema prophetic word. It kind of stood out of everything else she said. And she said a lot of things that were quite relatable. However, this particular term where she mentioned being spiritually bedridden, and I don't think it's just for me, I think it's for many other people as well. And I'll share a little bit more on what exactly does being spiritually bedridden means. Okay, so just understanding of what this term means is that being spiritually bedridden is not that you're physically in bed, you're tired physically, or you're in hospital because of some pain. It really talks to being spiritually bedridden from a spiritual place, and you are downcasted, you are downcast, or you are, what's the word? Your soul is weary, okay? And also you are in a season and a weight of prolonged discouragement, and you have a sense of disconnection from your purpose or presence, right? So this is quite heavy because with people who are physically in pain, you can actually see it. You can help them. Oh, she broke her leg. Let's quickly take her to the hospital. Let's help them. However, with someone who is spiritually bedridden, that normally is something that is only visible to that person, and maybe to somebody very, very close that knows that person, and ultimately something that's more visible to God and the enemy. I know. So the enemy is a huge fan of discouragement and disappointment, and that's why he raised his ugly head to always attack us with the different elements of life, such as discouragement, disappointment, rejection. The list goes on and on and on. What does it mean to be spiritually bedridden? Paralyzed by discouragement, right? So you know the truth, but it feels distant or ineffective. You know, I can share a lot of stories in my life where I've gone through a season of discouragement recently. I think all of us in some shape or form, we have gone through seasons of discouragement. Sometimes discouragements are small, sometimes they are very medium, and sometimes they're very big. And sometimes for some people they are short-lived, and sometimes for other people they are prolonged seasons of discouragement. So this is when someone or yourself or myself, you have just been going at it, but you're just not getting it, right? You're not attaining that goal, you're not getting that deal, you're not getting that relationship on track, you're just not seeming to attain, and whatever you're doing proves to be ineffective. And that can lead to discouragement, and that can lead to a place of being bedridden. So guys, I'm not sharing only sad and gloom things. I want to explain to you how does it look like, and then I'll give you scriptures in terms of how we've seen it in the word, where a lot of people such as David, such as Job, such as Jesus went through seasons of prolonged discouragement, being spiritually bedridden, and how they got out. Okay, so the second one is you're exhausted to fight because you've been in the season for so long. You're just wondering, is it even worth it to even fight, to even raise a point if it's something that needs to be discussed? Is it even worth it to even have a conversation with that individual, because you are just exhausted to fight, right? And you know that you are spiritually bedridden when you don't even want to fight. You can see it, but it's like, I ain't doing this, okay? Number 3 is you are disconnected from joy or a purpose. Like your spirit is awake but is unable to move. Now I can really what you call this? This speaks to me, right? This particular part is very relatable to me. So for example, how someone can be spiritually bedridden through just not having a sense of connection with joy, right? Is that you normally are aware that you need to do something, but you just don't care. And sometimes you, for example, you know that you're supposed to go to church, but you just don't go. And every excuse that was once inexcusable in your books has now become an excuse for you not to go to church, or for you not to read your Bible, or for you not to have that honest conversation with that individual. So it's like, I know that I'm supposed to do this, but it's like, whatever. And that's another weapon that the enemy uses around being despondent. You get despondent, you're neither here or there. You're just not dead though. You're still alive. It's just that your spirit is just like, I'm out. And the enemy is so good at doing that. We see in the book of First Kings chapter 19, 20. Was it chapter 19? Yeah, I think it was chapter 19, when around a time when Elijah got a message from one of Queen Jezebel's people that he was going to be killed in a few minutes or a few hours, and all of a sudden he was just scared. And then he went through a state of despondency, depression, suddenly. So it happens to the best of us. If it happened to Elijah, trust me, it can happen to you. However, Elijah came back. He came out of it because of God's persistence. And you know what? God also persists with us. He persists with me every day. He persists with you. It's just a matter of being aware that God is actually talking to you. Like small little signs throughout your day kind of remind you, oh my gosh, this man is all up in my business. He really wants me to get out of this state of mind. So in the story of Elijah, in a particular scenario, God sent an angel to get Elijah out of that state, out of that cave mindset, physically and mentally. And he told him what his next mission was. And he spoke to him in a still small voice. And after God spoke to him, Elijah quickly got back up to his senses, went to anoint the king, went to anoint the prophet Elisha. And so many things happened after his state of disconnection, of purpose and joy, because he allowed God to be louder than his despondency. So it does happen because you are discouraged, you've been in a state of exhaustion, you end up being disconnected from joy and purpose. And then also you're overwhelmed. So being spiritually bedridden also means that you are overwhelmed by God's silence. God can be quiet. You know, between the Old Testament and the New Testament, I think it said that God was quiet for like thousands of years before Jesus came into the surface, right? And also with the children of Israel, God was quiet after what they went through. And in your life, in my life, God has just been quiet, right? And you are overwhelmed by, why is he not saying anything? Can't he see that I'm going through this? So all these things, guys, summed up together can cause one to be spiritually bedridden. In the book of Psalms 41 verse 13, the Lord sustains them on their sick bed and restores them from their bed of illness. Even when you are down, God is still nudging. Even when you feel like he's not hearing you, or he's not saying anything, God, the word says that he will sustain you and he will restore you from that bed, that sick bed. Mark 2 verse 11 says that, I tell you, get up, take your mat and go home. This is when Jesus was speaking to the man in the pool of Bethesda. And this man was tired, but also this man had like his paradigm of thinking was so bad that even when the obvious wasn't obvious anymore, and Jesus didn't say, you're gonna be okay, I need you to you got this. God was like, you need to get up. So I've been in a season when God is like telling me, get up. and I get up every day and I show up regardless of 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 the surroundings of my circumstance. Yes, I see what they're doing. Yes, it's not fair. Like just like the man in the pool of Bethesda, but God is like, get up. Okay. And then in Isaiah 40, verse 29, 31, it says that he gives strength to the weary. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. So this is one of my favorite scriptures. And it's towards the end of Isaiah 14. I love the scripture because, you know, even when you are crawling, God will make you arise, guys. Even when you are so down and you can't even run. So as a runner, sometimes I don't even want to run, but I can walk. Sometimes I can't even walk, but I can crawl. So the word says that God is going to be with you even when you crawl. Just don't stop. Okay. So how do you begin to rise? So a whisper, a prayer, even if it's weak. So there was a season in my life where I just couldn't pray. That's a powerful phrase, silly. Sorry about that. That was my audio, and I think it was reading what I was saying. So there was a time in my life where I couldn't even pray. And I just said, Lord, help, 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 help. And sometimes I listened to instrumental worship, right? And sometimes I couldn't even sing worship like with lyrics. I just would listen to instrumental worship. And then the second one is, how do I begin to rise, or how do you begin to rise, or how can we all begin to rise? Is let others carry you in prayer. So it's very important to have loved ones, family, friends, church. Ask them to pray for you, to come together to pray for you, even when you can't pray for yourself. And then the third way to rise up is to rest without feeling guilty. Sometimes we can be in such a season of go, 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 go that we don't even rest. And sometimes all we need is rest for God to replenish us, for God to reclaim us, for God to restore us. So I wanted to share this with you because as I learned from the conference about being spiritual bedridden and how it can really prolong you achieving what God has destined for you. It can prolong it. Not that it's not going to happen, but it can really prolong it. However, if you stay in that posture, it can also stop you from achieving a purpose. So the scriptures that I spoke to you about, it's about getting up, arising. It's about taking first steps into getting back from that place of being spiritually bedridden. Because a lot of people I can look at in my life, elders that have almost given up on life because they think they're too old. They should have done that when they were this age. And God is saying, you know, even in the scriptures, it speaks about that he will give old man new dreams, you know. And so I pray that you get up, you take your mat, and you go. Have an awesome day, guys. Bye.